you tell us about yourself, your education, your experiences, and any other information you want to share?
Okay. I am currently a senior at SFA, so I will be graduating soon and I will be certified to teach C through 6. I did teach pre-K 5 prior to this, and I did that for 3 years. And then I am, for 2 years, I was the behavior para here at Huntington Elementary, and then I have been working in the pre-K class along with doing behavior para work since the beginning of the school year.
What does an engaging classroom look like where students are active in constructing their own knowledge and taking ownership of their learning?
I think an engaging classroom looks like where students are not just either sitting in front of a screen or just sitting down doing worksheets. It's lots of hands-on activities, lots of group work, where the teacher can kind of circulate around the classroom, work either one-on-one with the student or in small groups to help get them further interested in the lesson.
Describe your organizational skills related to work or school.
So I have to write everything down. I work off of a calendar, and that goes for work, school, and my personal life. So I like to make lists. I like to have everything written down on a calendar. I'm a fan of highlighting it off whenever it's complete. To me, everything in my life has a spot, and that's where it goes. So I like for things to be very uniform and tidy.
What would you say motivates you as a teacher?
Speaking for the younger kids, seeing, because I did do pre-K for a while, seeing the excitement that they get whenever they're learning something new, or they even see their friend learn something new. That's very motivating to continue on and to see how interested they are in the different subjects, or for science, that seemed to be a big one with my pre-Kers. They really loved going out and exploring and manipulating things. So to see them sharing that is very motivating.
Describe how you would communicate with parents and what information you would communicate to them.
Okay, I think communicating with parents from day one is key. I think letting them know that you can have open communication. I think weekly newsletters are important, and having some sort, I don't know, like a lot of people use either GroupMe or you can message through Seesaw and things like that. So just having an open portal where they can message you throughout the day if there's any questions, or in the evening whenever the student comes home and they have work or they see a sad note or something like that in their folder, where they can have that open communication with you so you can work together as a team to make sure that the child is successful in class.
What if one of your parents is not tech savvy, they don't choose to use that kind of platform? What would you do?
So I know a lot of classrooms have take-home folders or binders. I know here at the Huntington they use leadership binders. I think having a spot in there where there is just an open spot for communication, whether it's a blank piece of paper or something, where you can have the parents write a response, or the
teachers, please send a student to the office to pick up your folder.
Having a spot, for you to write a letter, or the parent, and then have a response section, and even a spot for y'all to initial saying, okay, I've seen this, or something like that, so that technology doesn't have to be included, but it is something that the parent can look forward to seeing every day and check that space every day.
What does response to intervention mean to you?
I think that can go in 2 separate ways. Response intervention, RTI, can go behavior or academic. So it just depends on the needs of the child. Some children need academic intervention and behavior intervention, and some just need one or the other. Personal experience, I believe they both kind of go hand in hand. If a child is struggling academically, they're going to struggle with behavior. If they're struggling with behavior, they're usually not doing as well in school as they should be doing. But I think that all starts in the classroom. Making sure boundaries are set, rules are in place, and they're fully aware of those. They're aware of the consequences, and they're aware of any rewards they could possibly get. And I also think that communication with the parents plays a huge role in that. If the parents are on board, then you're going to be more successful with your interventions.
Explain how you use assessments and data to drive
I think those are both vital components when building your instruction. I think that you have to, first off, assess. If your students don't know how to add single digit numbers, then you can't go ahead and move into adding double digit numbers, you know. And so simple assessments, even if they're informal, you know, assessments, those are what, you know, it's gonna have to help you. If you don't do those informal assessments or even the formal assessments, you don't know when it's okay to move to the next level, or if you should take a step back and reevaluate your lesson and how you communicated with the children and see if you need to teach that in another way. I mean, I think data, I think it's crucial to keep data, especially for your children who are possibly, you know, RTI students, because even if it's just keeping a portfolio where you're making copies and keeping some of their work, for you to go back and reflect on later, even, you know, pair with another teacher or a principal and reflect on it later as to where we can make changes to help that child be successful.
How do you individualize instruction?
Let me see.
Like, how do you know where a student is in the mastery of the concepts, and how would you document this for each student?
Again, I think that informal assessments are huge because, like I gave the, you know, example with the 4 + 4. How do we know it equals 8? That could be, you know, me circulating around the classroom and just asking, you know, well, if we have 4 pencils and then we add 4, how many are we going to have? That's an informal assessment that's going to check that child, and I know I can mark, okay, that child is aware, you know, what it means to add more to it to make a whole, 2 parts to make a whole. And I think that with children, as far as individualizing, it's just different for all of them. Some of them drive off of just hearing it verbally. As long as they hear it verbally, they have it. Some children require manipulatives for them to build it on their own, for them to see it. Some, you know, are just visual. As long as they see it written out, they have it. So I think as an educator for early childhood, we have to provide all of those things so that it does speak to each individual child.
Explain what experience you have working with special education students and gifted and talented students. How would you meet their needs in the classroom?
So personally, I have a brother who has Down syndrome and a brother who's autistic. So special education, literally grew up with it. I know that's a little different than working in a classroom and teaching them, but that does help me speak to them on a personal level and understand their needs on a more personal level, which to me does translate into the classroom setting. Like I said, I've done behavior intervention for 2 years, and a lot of the time behavior does kind of coincide with, you know, educational deficiencies. So a lot of these children, it is just me taking them in the classroom by one-on-one or even a small group with 2 or 3 and slowing it down. We're going to talk about the same concepts, but we might use different manipulatives. We're going to, you know, slow it down and do one problem at a time, you know, until everybody gets it. Even if that's doing the same problem 5 times, you know. I think it's just slowing down and taking your time. And I think key is just not getting frustrated. I feel like a lot of people who don't have special education experience do seem to get frustrated with those children a lot more. I do not have any experience with the gifted and talented students. A lot of my experience is just with special education.
Okay, what are some strategies that you could use to help struggling readers within your classroom?
I feel like that's kind of a trick question. Where are they struggling at in their reading and kind of what age level? I feel like assessments are going to be key into pinpointing exactly where they're struggling. Are they struggling with decoding? Or are they struggling just with simple phonics? You know, are they struggling with fluency? So I think doing an assessment of them, and even maybe having a coworker do an assessment of them and comparing notes and seeing exactly where that reader is struggling, and then starting from that building block and focusing on that building block to help them catch up with the rest of their group.
How often do you use writing within your classroom, and what does that look like?
From past experience, like I said, we did pre-K, so writing within our classroom, names, we focused on names heavily and identifying the letters in our names. And for the first week we might just focus on the very first letter of their name, and we would write it dozens of times, on all sorts of things, even if they were just to write the first letter, and then I would complete their name, like my name is Bailey, so I would have them write a B, and then as long they did their B, I would finish their name, and then the next week we might move on to BA, and they would write the B and the A, and then I would complete it. So that's really what we focused on in our classroom: simple letters, numbers 1 through 10, and then name writing is what we looked at in the classroom.
How do you make math relevant to students?
Making math relevant. I guess going back to the example of 4 plus 4, I might not just say, okay, what's 4 plus 4? I might say, if Katie has 4 cookies and Piper has 4 cookies, how many cookies do we have all together? So including their names in it and then something they're interested in helps it click with them. It makes it more personal, and it kind of helps engage them a little more.
Tell us about teaching a math lesson to fit the varied learning styles within your classroom.
Like we discussed earlier, I think hitting, as I wanted them to see it visually, I want them to hear it, I want them to be able to touch it and, move those pieces individually. And I think all of those things together are important when teaching any lesson. With math, I've had great result with them teaching it to somebody. So them pairing up in partners, after we've seen it, we've heard it, we've touched it, now you're gonna teach your partner. So they'll have them explaining it, these simple math problems. I've had great success with it, where they've kind of been able to move a little quicker because they're having to think about it a little more. It brings them into that higher level of thinking where they're now having to teach it, so they retain it a bit more.
Why would you be the best person for this job?
I think my experience with teaching pre-K and then my experience in behavior kind of gives me, I guess the behaviors kind of gives me a leg up, because coming into such a younger grade, there are a lot of students who haven't been away from home before, who I might see some of these behavior issues that I have seen in upper grades, but this being their first time. I might have a couple strategies in my toolbox, or people that I can call and rely on that I've already built relationships with that can come into the classroom and help me, with my classroom management or whatever I'm having an issue with that pertains to that student.
So it sounds like you'd be a great fit for lots of districts. Why Huntington?
I like that Huntington is a smaller district. It seems that everybody gets along more as a family, and that everybody has a person to lean on. I do have a few different friends that work in the district, and that was one of their big things, that they love that they are actually a team. It doesn't feel like you're going and working just as an individual in a district. It feels like you're joining a team.
Do you have any questions?
I do. What do y'all have in place as far as behavior goes? Do y'all have, thank you, Jordan. What do y'all have in place as far as behavior goes? What for y'all's grades? Do y'all have, I can't even think right now, plans in place, like reward system in place that's school-wide? Is that all based like per classroom? What do y'all do what is y'all's behavior plan? Like, is it school-wide or is it classroom?
I think it's kind of both.
Okay.
We have things within our classroom that we do to encourage the kids, and it might be something very spontaneous that week if we really need some extra help. But we also have Devil Dollars, and we have a store that the kids can buy things when they earn enough Devil Dollars to do that. So that's an encourager for them as well.
And that does go grade-wise.
Yes.
I do like that because it gives kind of something for the child to look forward to coming into school. It's not starting over every year.
Right.
Okay, so our next question is, What is more important, instruction or classroom management, and explain?
I feel like they are equally important. First off, you have to have good classroom management. If you do not have a good hold on your classroom and the children don't know what's expected or what's coming next, then instruction is going to be just obsolete because you have to have full control of your classroom. With that being said, good instruction where it's reaching all students. So it being visual, verbal, and hands-on is also important, because if not, then your children are not going to be engaged. Therefore, it's going to come back on your classroom management. So I think that they kind of play hand in hand.
How do you go about creating the sense of a classroom community that is focused on learning?
I think that it's important to, like we discussed previously about having like a classroom newsletter as a way of keeping in touch with the parents and keeping that open communication. I think that that's important to bring that in to create a strong classroom community. I think also, ensuring that all the children feel respected, supported, and encouraged, not only by you, but also by their classmates. So like displaying their work, like something that they're proud of along the walls, even inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom. Let the other children within the school support them, encourage them, within their learning. I think that all of those things are important to create a strong classroom community.
And I think that would also tie into your school culture, like
Yeah.
the kids seeing their work and everything. What is your discipline procedure?
I personally like using the clips, and I like having the children move their own clip. It kind of takes it lets them move their clip and lets them know, okay, I did this was wrong. It makes them take responsibility of their actions. Most children generally don't like moving their clip, so I kind of let that be the first step. The second step, I make, of course the child will move their clip again. That's when I would write home to the parent, either in the folder or message them through whatever portal they prefer. Third, I would end up being an office referral. It usually doesn't end up going that way. Like I said, the children really dislike moving that clip, and usually just a note home to mom or dad or whoever the caregiver is enough to kind of help correct that child's actions.
Okay. How do you think that's proactive in your discipline techniques?
I think that it's proactive because, like I said, them moving their own clip and taking responsibility for themselves. At the beginning of the year, it seems like we do a lot of clip moving, letting the children move it back and forth, and I do allow them to move it back up. If they correct themselves and they really turn their day around, they can move it back up to where we're not gonna write home to mom, or we're gonna move it back up so that we do have that extra chance in there. So it's tough at first, there's a lot of clip moving, but it ends up being a great proactive thing that we do at the beginning of the year, because getting towards the middle of the year, even end of the year, the children are able to correct themselves or turn themselves around, so there's a lot less clip moving.
If you have a persisting issue with a student, like not staying in his or her seat or talking nonstop, hitting friends, what measures would you use to correct the unacceptable behavior?
It really just depends on the child. First off, we need to determine why they're not staying in their seat. What's with the excessive talking or lashing out? Is it strictly a behavior issue, or is it a learning issue that's manifesting into a behavior issue? So I think that first we would need to identify the root cause of the issue, and then we would need to move further from there. If it's just a behavior issue, like they're talking nonstop while we're only on the rug, I would probably move that child over to me on the rug, or even place them at a table near the rug where they could still hear and be engaged if they would like, but they weren't capable of disrupting the children around them. If it's an academic issue, then we would seek, help with the next step. How can we get this child on target where they need to be, and then hopefully that behavior issue would stop.
Do you have any questions?
I do have some questions for you. First off, do you require teachers to be ESL certified at this school?
No, we have one teacher per grade level that is ESL certified,
Okay,
and they will take their ESL certification test, and then they'll get a stipend every year for that.
okay. If there are multiple per grade level, does each teacher who is ESL certified receive that stipend, or is it, how do you?
Every ESL student will go into one classroom.
One classroom, okay. You asked about, what my, discipline procedures are. What are y'all's for the campus? What are your discipline procedures here?
We have the Double Dollar Store kind of as a reinforcement for our students. And then typically K through third have consequences. It's going to principal or SAC or lunch detention.
Mainly the school-wide ones, I would
Yeah.
say.
And then there's also corporal punishment if the parents choose.
Okay. And you mentioned the Double Dollar Store is positive reinforcement. That's something that is school-wide for all grade levels?
Yes, it's say from $1 to $100, and the students can spend their money or save their money. They have to have at least $10 to go to the store,
Okay,
and they can buy a toy of their choice, and it's a certain amount per toy. Or they can do like lunch with the teacher, or late lunch with the principal, or something like that.
let me see. So I did mention that I am a senior at SFA. Do y'all assist with student loans, post like graduation? If I've been employed here for so many years, or do y'all help pay those back or anything? No? Okay. Do y'all assist with, seeking, like I'm planning on seeking my master's degree. Do y'all have any program for assistance with that? Let me see, I have a few more questions for you. Okay, so, once hired, if I'm hired, do y'all have someone that would help guide me and assist me through my first few years of teaching? Is that person located on campus?
Every grade level has their lead teacher,
Okay,
and that can help be a mentor teacher. And then we also have a district-wide mentor teacher that comes from certain days, once a week, and we'll check in with you and make sure you're doing everything okay. And then she'll communicate with you, and then also the principals.
okay. Okay, and how do y'all assess your teachers, not just your first year teachers, but even your experienced teachers? How?
We do walkthrough datas, and there's a list of certain things we're looking for, objectives posted, the classroom environment, and if the students are learning, engaged on task. And then we'll also do T-test observations for every teacher. That's one formal observation for 45 minutes that the principal will do. The teacher pretty much gets to choose what time, what lesson, and then the principal will come through and complete that walkthrough. And you'll create kind of your own goals and what you want to set for yourself.
Okay.
And you'll communicate with the principal and your mentor teacher through that.
Okay, are those more frequent for newer teachers? Or is it less frequent for experienced, or is it kind of the same across the board?
It depends on your experience level here at Huntington. Typically, if you're 5 years, 1 through 5 years, you get a T-test observation every year. And then after that, you can sign, I guess, a paper, and then you can be observed
Every other year.
every other year. And then that's like a whole administration team come in and observe your walkthroughs.
Okay. We had previously discussed how I would like to communicate with parents, for the students that are within my classroom. How does the school communicate with parents?
We do call-outs when needed. We have a Facebook AGS page.
Okay.
We have Cecil if needed. Newsletters home.
Okay.
Did you say the website?
We do
District
have a
website.
district website, HISD website, that we can post things to. For every campus has their own kind of webpage in that.
Last question. So I will be, SPED certified as well. Is there a stipend for that? And I plan on teaching gen ed, but how would that work as far as bringing SPED kids into my classroom as well?
This district doesn't, give you any incentives for having them in your room. They just appreciate your knowledge that you might have, but they don't give you any stipend for that.
Okay, so it doesn't fall along the same lines as
It-
ESL students.
It does not.
Okay, those are all my questions, thank you.
Alright, I'm gonna give you a few minutes to go over the scenario type questions and write it down, and then we will come back and reconvene.
Okay. Okay.
First scenario type question. It states, one of your students, Jeremy, has been a persistent behavior disruption in class. You have observed him taking things from other students, name calling, and not being on task during learning time. In several instances, you have disciplined Jeremy by giving him recess detention and separating him from other students. He has not improved. Today, his mother is at school because Jeremy has told her that you have been picking on him and separating him from the rest of the class for no reason, and she is very upset. How would you approach a conversation with his mother at that time?
I think the first, how would I approach his mother? I think the first thing I need to talk about is tone. With parents or people in general who come and are very upset, especially over something pertaining to their child, it can escalate really quickly. So I think firstly, when you talk about tone, I think I would approach her in a very kind, polite, and probably a very soft tone, which can be difficult for me at times because I'm very loud just as a person naturally. But in those instances, I do try to tone it down quite a bit and even tone my energy down quite a bit because that brings me into body language. I think that I would try to approach her not in a real aggressive manner. I probably wouldn't walk up to her really quickly. I would probably try to stand back a little bit. It just to be more respectful of her and let her understand that I'm not there to try to escalate the situation. Another thing is it doesn't really specifically say where she was at the school or if she approached or anything like that, but I would make sure whenever I spoke to her that I was in a place where we could have privacy, but I would also ensure that somebody on the administrative team was present with me while I spoke to the parent. So I would start there. Let me see. I would try to provide documentation of the incidents where he was bullying other children or name calling, or even whenever he was off task and possibly didn't, complete his work or took an extended period to complete it. I would make sure that I had all that documentation present just in case that I needed it. I would also try to explain to her the intervention strategies that we took or that have been implemented in order to try to resolve some of the problems, before we took the situation out of the classroom and even into the office. Because it doesn't sound like Jeremy's been to the office. It sounds like, it's just kind of one of those he said, she said type situations where the student is saying, oh, well, she's being mean to me because she moved me to a desk away from the other students, when in reality that was probably just a step that was taken in order to help him get his work completed and help him stay on task so he didn't end up in a worse situation such as SAC or with corporal punishment. So I would try to convey all those things to her, and then I would also discuss with her what the next steps are. If moving him away from the rest of the class was the step that I took, I would make sure that she understood that if he couldn't get his work done there or whatever we decided to do, that the next step would be an office referral, so that she would see, that I was trying to help her child. I'm not trying to pick on him or be mean to him. And then, let me see, I would have handy and hope that I wouldn't need it, but the student teacher contract and also the student parent contract ready. And that's something from previous experience, that all students, all parents, all teachers sign at the beginning of the year. And that is to respect each other, and all things like that. And if Jeremy is bullying other students by taking things from them and calling them names, that's not being respectful of his classmates, and maybe Jeremy just needs to be reminded by that. So that's what I would do. Possibly I would request that Jeremy be seen by the counselor, because if he's doing those things to other students and then he's going home and telling his mother that I'm picking on him, it sounds to me like he's possibly attention seeking, and that maybe he needs to talk to somebody about that.
All right, Clarissa is one of your students who is failing both reading and math. When you work with her in a one-on-one setting, she seems to understand the material. However, she doesn't complete in-class assignments or homework. You have noticed that she is very quiet, but often daydreaming or in her own world. You have not been successful at reaching a parent or a guardian after multiple attempts. What steps would you take to help Clarissa be successful?
I think this is where documentation is going to be your best friend in this situation. that little portfolio that I talked about keeping per student, keeping, you know, copies of some of her work, taking small notes as to what the circumstance was whenever she was doing which assignment, that sort of thing. I would probably come and present it to the administrative team and see if we could get a formal meeting set up with the mother to see if we could discuss getting her placed in some sort of small group setting so that she could be more successful. And then also try to reach out to mother again to see if maybe she's been tested, I don't know, for like ADD or something like that, to where she is having trouble and maybe she's simply off of her medication at this point. But I think trying to reach mother is key, and then making sure that all of your documentation is in order, so that whenever we do reach out to mother and we do set up a meeting with the admin team, that we can really find a situation that's going to be best for her and her learning, and to see if, I don't know, maybe it's just something simple like, oh, mom hasn't refilled her prescription for a few weeks or having trouble with that. Maybe that's something we could also assist with.
No?
I can think of.
Alright, so our committee for pre-K is going to meet and we will discuss our interview options.
Okay, so we've got to make a decision. I guess let's just kind of talk about each person and kind of what we thought about that person. Were there some really good points that you had about either one of them that you really thought that Bailey or Tabitha, that there was really strong?
I liked in Tabitha's interview how she was very confident in what she was saying. I felt like her discipline and classroom management was very on target for pre-K. She had a great reward system. I think sticker charts were great, and the clip charts would be a great resource to use. And then like her having previous experience teaching, actually not being a first year teacher for 3 years in pre-K would be a great experience to have. How did you feel about it?
I thought they were both pretty confident. But yeah, I think that you kind of hit on the points that I was kind of thinking. I mean, we want somebody that's strong and confident, but do we think that she's going to get along well with our group, or that she's going to come in and try to run the show, or, you know, kind of, what did y'all think about that part?
I feel like she was very kind of overbearing.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if she would get along with the other pre-K teachers because she has this experience, and I feel like is not wanting to collaborate well with others and like listen to the other teachers and what they have to say.
That-
kind of do her own thing. Yeah. And I feel like that's it. Collaboration in pre-K is a big
For sure.
thing with behavior and lesson plans and collaborating together.
Yes, and for a new person to be that strong
Yeah.
is kind of alarming. What did you think?
I kind of agree with y'all, with everything that y'all have said.
So how did you feel about Bailey?
I thought she interviewed very strong. I thought she was very confident. I guess I have to get to know her a little bit better to find out kind of how she would work with us, but I feel like it probably would be a good fit. I feel like it's definitely a better fit than the other one as far as that kind of, you know, personality goes. I didn't really have anything that's really sticking out as a negative. And I guess one of the negatives might be for the other one is that, you know, she's a little overbearing.
I liked how Bailey kind of, you know, she had classroom management, she had behavior, she knew pretty much a good bit about RTI and making sure, you know, you close the learning gaps. And I really think she would collaborate well with others and is wanting to learn and eager to learn, and being a first year teacher, I think it's really important.
Definitely. I mean, I think she might be a good option for us.
So, believe it.
Think so.
Okay, I'll go for it.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna call Bailey. Hopefully she answers.
Hello.
Hi Bailey, how are you?
Oh, I'm well. How are you?
Okay, I'm here with the pre-K team and we have made a decision and we would like to offer you the pre-K teacher position.
Yay, that's so exciting. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we are looking forward to having you. Do you have any questions or anything that you would like to ask?
I do. I know that school is starting in roughly 2 months, so I need to start prepping for my classroom. Do y'all have a certain theme that pre-K is going with this year?
This year our school theme, or next year, sorry, our school theme is going to be Never Stop Growing. So we are kind of doing, our vision for the kiddos is to make sure our kiddos are closing the learning gaps, and we are wanting them to continue learning. So we're kind of doing like plants and flowers, if you wanted to use that theme, or
Okay.
you could make your own theme.
Okay. And then also, am I walking into a completely blank classroom, or is there furniture already in there? Are there things that are left over from a previous teacher?
There will be tables and chairs, and then stools to go to the bar. There will be stuff in your closet, resources for you to use, and we just bought new curriculum for pre-K, and then it's also online too, so you'll have those online resources, and you'll just make a CLI Engage account. Trying to think what else, but if you want like center tubs, you can buy that. We do have shelves for centers if you need that, and mailboxes.
Okay.
There'll be nap mats for you to use for your kids, and towels provided.
Okay, wonderful. And then do y'all provide any sort of like allotment for new teachers, or is everything out of pocket on my end?
I mean, what you want to choose to decorate your classroom with is kind of out of your pocket, but if you're absolutely needing new chairs or a table or anything like that, then the school will look in the storage building and pull from that, or we can order you new furniture.
Okay, and then like I said, I know school is actually starting in 2 months. When does in-service begin?
In-service will be the first week in August, and you will have a new teacher orientation date, which will be 1 day, and then you will begin on a Monday. And then on Tuesday, you will begin with the regular staff.
Okay, awesome. And then do I need to come ahead of time and fill out any paperwork or sign anything, or will I do all that with the new employees?
You can come and sign your contract, and then the rest of the stuff you can fill out with your at your new orientation.
Awesome. And how soon can I get in my classroom to begin preparing and meeting the rest of the team?
We are currently, we're gonna clean the floors, and then probably the first week of June, you can probably get in your classroom and start pulling furniture and everything.
That's exciting. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. If you
We're
need me.
excited.
Yay, me too. Thank you.